So for day 7, under the classwork tab, informational interview, it has the daily agenda, and I usually would just go in this order. So the first step is, if you're not currently in class right now, you're probably watching this YouTube video as step 1, which will be added right here. So what you'll want to do is you'll pick one of the career videos below. So we have a day in the life of nursing, a day in the life of a hairstylist. I can't remember what this one is, but I think it's logistics. There's a forklift driver. This is an auto tech, and there's an EMT. I just picked a few videos, but let's say you want to be an engineer. You can go to YouTube and you can look up a day in the life of a civil engineer. So you can look up whatever you think you want to do for your job. So out of those top 3 careers you researched, or maybe you already have an idea of what career you want to do, you get to pick. It does not have to be the same career for both parts of day 7 assignment. So if I want to watch a day in the life of nursing because I'm interested in being a nurse, I can do this day in the life Google Doc assignment based on being a nurse. So for this, you don't necessarily have to ask questions of another person who is a nurse or in the nursing field. You can just fill this in based on your YouTube video of your choosing. So you would put the name of the career, you would write about some of the daily duties and tasks. You can make this colorful, you can put pictures in here if you'd like. The pros are like the really good things about the job, what makes you want to do it after researching, and the cons are the things that are not so good or maybe are drawbacks, make you not want to do the job as much. Why do I think I would be good at this career? And what are some potential areas of growth within myself? Do I need to work on my customer service related skills if I'm thinking of being a manager or an HR representative? Do I need to get more comfortable with knowledge of anatomy and the human body if I'm thinking of going into the medical field? So this is pretty short. You can kind of make it your own. Now, a really good thing to note is if you'd rather do your informational interview first and then come back to this, you can do your informational interview first and then do this a day in a life document based on that profession. So if I'm interviewing someone who's a nurse and I'm interested in it, I can go ahead and complete this after my informational interview or after I watch a YouTube video of someone in my profession talking about a day in their life. So that's the first part of the assignment. The second part is watching this video, not only this YouTube video, but how to have an informational interview. So how can I get the most out of my informational interview? How can I learn the most about that profession? So you can watch that 12-minute video. And then there is also an article, if you are still uncomfortable having an informational interview with someone, I would highly encourage you to read through that. So it's 3 steps to a perfect informational interview. Technically, you're not really trying to impress that person, but let's say, ooh, I do not want to subscribe to that. Hopefully I can get out of doing that. Oh, no. Well, guys, you might have to put your email in for that one, but I'm going to hit the back button and see if it gets me out of it. But where was I going with that? That article is helpful because if I'm going into nursing, right, and I find someone at St. Elizabeth Hospital that I want to interview, it might be helpful for me to, I'm just putting down some random stuff. It might be helpful for me to make a good impression during that informational interview. So even though they are not interviewing for me for a nursing job, I am there to find out about nursing. I want to act interested in it, right? Because that might be my future career. So just keeping that in mind, that even for an informational interview where you're digging into that profession by asking questions, it's still nice to be perhaps dressed decently. It doesn't have to be super professional. Depends on the setting. If you're going to a professional building and having your informational interview, I would dress nice. That's just me, because you make a good first impression. If you're interviewing maybe like your uncle and you have a good relationship naturally, maybe you're just more comfortable clothes and you're meeting over a cup of coffee. So this is a good article to read about how to conduct one. So you are going to probably benefit from reading into this a little bit more. And the assignment for the informational interview is this Google Doc. I can print hard copies of this if people prefer. Just shoot me an email, or in the chat, just write that down. Essentially, you're going to write down the person's occupation, where they're employed, what their name is, your name, and the date. All of the questions are pre-scripted. I would try not to read directly off the paper. But these questions should give you, these first 9 should give you a good feel for the job. What are some of the duties? What's the nature of the work? How did they become interested? I think passion and interest in a career is very important, in addition to skill set, to find out more about what kind of education programs there are. What did they do? What education did they complete prior to getting into that workforce? Can they describe a typical day for you? It's kind of nice to know if that job for that profession, you have to wake up really early, or wow, they're on call a lot. That's a good thing to know. Or hey, it looks like it's a 9 to 5 kind of job. That's important for me because with my family, that would work really well. What do you enjoy the most about your work, and what do you enjoy the least? Kind of weighing the pros and cons. And what skills and qualities do you feel are necessary to do this kind of work? They will hopefully be able to tell you what the expected salary range is. You probably know that already from your career research Google sheet from day 6. But I would ask them, especially for their company, maybe they know where they started out, what raises look like. I think a firsthand experience is just as valuable as Google searching or using that Indiana career assessment. Hearing firsthand from someone in that field is so valuable. The outlook is important. They might be able to tell you like, hey, our company's grown a lot the last few years, or hey, we're a little slower right now. So that's good to know, especially if you're going into a career that's a little bit slower in growth. Being aware that it might be a little bit harder to find a job in that field is important. You get to make up 3 questions of your choice. So some people will ask here about vacation time or about benefits. Other people will ask about childcare. There's some companies, bigger factories, that have childcare after so many months of working there. I feel like Subaru has that. Some hospitals are also really fancy and have daycares. It's good to know what their policies are for PTO. It's also good to know, how's the training look like? Do they have a couple weeks of job training before you dive right in? And lastly, at the bottom, this is your own personal reflection. So you're not asking these questions to the person you're interviewing. This is your own personal reflection after completing the informational interview. So are you still interested? Are you more interested? Like now you really want to do it? Or is there some drawbacks that are deal breakers for you? And if there's any additional thoughts that you have, suggestions, for their company or ideas, that would be a good place to put them. Maybe if you're considering a different career after the interview, you could put that down there as well. And just any remaining questions you might have. So there's that. There is a small journal on here as well. Just remember, when you have more than one Google Doc, you want to not hit turn it in and not hit share. So if you share stuff with me, it's fine, but I'd prefer if you hit view assignment and then underneath your work, it says turn it in. That is perfect. So the journal is good to do after the informational interview. So what makes you most excited about, oh no, this might be before your interview actually, my apologies. So before you even do your informational interview, I would do the journal. So what makes you excited to complete an informational interview? Who do you think you're going to interview and why did you pick them? And if you don't, who could you try to reach out to ask? And what makes you nervous or concerned about the interview? I think that's really good to recognize what we're nervous about so we can better prepare for that informational interview and have a stronger foundation. So if you want to do the journal today before you even do your informational interview, you do not need to share it with me. Just know that everything saves on your drive. So you can turn it all in at the same time by hitting view assignment and turn it in. But that's pretty much day 7 informational interview in a nutshell. You can pick your own video to watch, or you can base this day in the life off of your informational interview. And if you're watching this recording afterwards, please feel free to ask me any questions you have.